what is crucial right now, to tell you the truth, is to have systematic, constant communication between President Trump and President Zelensky. And I'm sure that such communication will remove many obstacles.
Now, we can hear from Oleksandr Merezhko, the Ukrainian MP, who's also chair of the Committee on Foreign Policy and Interparliamentary Cooperation. Good afternoon to you, Oleksandr.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very, very welcome. Now, we know that the President, Volodymyr Zelensky, was not consulted by Trump before the announcement, before he spoke to Vladimir Putin. In fact, President Zelensky made a point, didn't he, of saying that he spoke to Trump, but not for 90 minutes, which is how long Trump spoke to Putin. What are your feelings? Do you feel disappointed? Do you feel angry? Tell me.
Yeah, the truth is that we have no right to be disappointed or to be angry, because our fate depends on the United States, on providing its support. But, you know, with or without this support, we have no choice but to continue our struggle, our fight for our survival and our independence. Of course, I would prefer President Trump first to call our president, because Ukraine is the victim of Russian aggression. And I'm sure that had he talked to President Zelensky before talking to Putin, his conversation with Putin would be very different.
Yeah.
But what happened. You know, we should look to the future with optimism. And, you know, I think that if Mr. Trump wants to go down in history as a great president, he should do everything to help Ukraine to defeat Russia and not to fall for Putin's provocations or Putin's traps.
Yes.
And will be what is crucial right now, to tell you the truth, is to have systematic, constant communication between President Trump and President Zelensky. And I'm sure that such communication will remove many obstacles.
Right, as you say, that's going to be absolutely crucial from here on, isn't it? You will want, and your President Zelensky, will want to be sure that he is included in conversations on the future of your country. You say you feel optimistic. Can you be optimistic that that is what's going to happen?
I have no right to be a pessimist. Churchill once said that I'm an optimist and I don't see any reason to be somebody else. We have no right to be pessimistic, because it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. But what gives me optimism, first of all, we still can count on our European allies and partners, including the UK. We have a partnership for 100 years. We have more than 20 security agreements with our allies. As for the United States, we still enjoy overwhelming bipartisan support of both Democrats and Republicans. There are lots of so-called Reaganites, you know, who believe in this foreign policy of Ronald Reagan, and it gives me hope.
I wonder if we may have lost the line momentarily there to Oleksandr Merezhko. I think we're going to try and see if we can. I think we've got the line back clearly now to you, Oleksandr. Let me ask you this: the American administration, Pete Hegseth, the president, Donald Trump, they're presenting you, it seems, with no choice but to accept the loss of your territory in the Donbass as well as Crimea. And when we're talking about the Donbass, we're talking about areas where Ukrainians have suffered horribly under Russian rule. Are you in any way reconciled or resigned to that? It will make you, won't it, very unpopular with very many Ukrainians.
I'm absolutely confident that it's a matter of time when we return our territories, which are now occupied by Russia, and when we restore our territorial integrity. And I can give you a very simple argument for that. Ukraine occupies, under control of our troops, is part of Russian territory. A whole chunk of the Kursk Oblast. It gives example that we can defend ourselves successfully.
But if you have some sort of ceasefire, and the combat is frozen, how can you hope to regain that lost territory?
I'm sure that it's a matter of time when situation within Russia will change, because we have seen it before many times. And we can think about returning our territories diplomatically, using diplomatic means. It's also possible.
Okay, that is an interesting answer. You're contemplating the long game of waiting for a change of regime in Russia, however long that may take. And in the meantime, you do seem to be reconciled to the idea of this in the interim, losing that piece of territory for which you've been fighting so hard. It's been very good to get your perspective, Oleksandr Merezhko, Ukrainian MP. Let's talk about defence ministers meeting in Munich ahead of the security conference tomorrow. The General Secretary, Mark Rutte, explained the need to boost defence spending. Mark Rutte and the American Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth, he agreed, saying spending should be increased to 5% of GDP. He went on to defend the president's actions. It's the American Defence Secretary. Now, really keen to get the thoughts of Larissa Brown, the defence editor of The Times. Welcome to the programme, Larissa.
Thank you.
Well, so, look, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have pulled the rug out from beneath the defence ministers and their defence chiefs who are meeting. Tell me what you make of how they're responding. I mean, how on earth could they respond?
Well, it's quite interesting and probably not unexpected that Britain is sort of taking the approach of, keep calm, carry on. The proper talks haven't started, nothing's off the table, whereas the rest of the Europeans are extremely nervous, especially the Baltic states. They're accusing Donald Trump of appeasement. They're saying that we're being walked into a deadly trap because, of course, the view of the Baltic states and others in Europe is that Putin, if he gets what he wants in Ukraine, then he's not going to stop. And once he gets the rest of Ukraine, he will push on into the rest of Europe.
Yeah, I mean, there's some strong language from various parts of Europe and the NATO alliance in Europe. But I guess everyone has to choose their words very carefully when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump.
They do, and I think that's why John Healey gave a briefing in Brussels, and he was quite measured in his remarks, and I think that the UK government is obviously very mindful that if you do say something that could anger Trump, he could act quite suddenly. He's very volatile, and obviously his remarks are often quite bombastic and announced on his Truth Social platform. And the big nervousness in the UK government is that anything that we do to annoy him might lead him to respond by imposing tariffs that could obviously affect the UK economy. So I think that's what everybody's very nervous about at the moment. And actually, I spoke to a European diplomat recently, and they were saying that that's really quite dangerous because nobody wants to stand up to Trump because they have the threat of tariffs looming over them.
Yeah, and Larissa, do share with us your reflections on the NATO that could emerge from all of this, because it cannot be the same.
I think it's all quite fractious at the moment, and clearly everybody has got to increase their defence spending. Britain is going to be under huge pressure, not to just reach that 2.5% target, but go beyond that. Trump and Hegseth, as you just heard, want 5%. I mean, that's an astronomical increase. Some European allies aren't even reaching the 2% target at the moment, and I think this is a huge wake-up call for the rest of the members in the NATO alliance. And I think that they are going to have to, drastically respond to this, because otherwise they could risk the fact that Trump might just pull out of NATO, and that would be disastrous for Europe.
Extraordinary. Larissa Brown, thank you. Defence editor at The Times.